Hello, everyone. My name is Brennan Marr. That noise you're hearing is my ventilator. Welcome to another Acolyte analysis presented by Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. Oh, my word, folks, I tell you. So this is a spoiler review. Or not so much a review as my thoughts on it. Of the latest episode, the Acolyte episode 5, called Night. Now, the last episode was called Day. And so a lot of people just sort of assumed that this one would be called Night, and they were right. And I gotta tell you, this was an event. Now, last week's episode, I will admit, was no, disappointing is the wrong word, but underwhelming to me, only in the sense that I wanted to get to the good stuff that was going to happen after this episode. Meaning that we end last week's episode on a slightly frustrating cliffhanger. And I mean, frustrating in the way that it's like, I want more. And oh no, we were just about to get to the good stuff. That's what, that's what I was waiting for. And boy, did it pay off this week. I'm calling this one the Rains of Dathomir. That's a reference to the Rains of Castamere. If you know, you know. I'll just leave it at that. The first off, I just gotta say, some of the best fight choreography I've ever seen in Star Wars. We were waiting for the lightsaber fights, and boy, did we get them. I had not been so tense watching an episode of Star Wars in a while. Not since the finale of Andor have I been this tense. And tragedy struck. I had a feeling it might. That's the thing about when this show is set. We don't know these characters. We don't know what's going on at this time. So no one is safe. No one is safe from dying or other nasty things. Except Mundi. Everybody else, we do not know their fate. And that makes for fun and exciting episodes because we just don't know what's going to happen. Another thing that I think was interesting is we finally get the revelation of who Darth Teeth is. Who this guy, the stranger. Well, as many of us have guessed, it is Chimera. I don't think the revelation came as that big of a shock to me. But what was a big surprise was, sadly, the deaths of Yord and Jackie. Rather brutal, very brutal. particularly the death of Yord, was very brutal for Star Wars. And then to the last episode, May was expressing doubt to Chimera because she said, well, how do you kill a Jedi without a weapon? Because they won't attack you if you're unarmed. So how do you provoke a fight with them where you can kill them without using a weapon? Pioneer demonstrated it. He kills Yord without using a weapon. Very brutal and very shocking. Um, and now this episode shows two examples, I think, of the natural world overcoming the dark side. Now we've seen this in Star Wars. The Ewok, the Purrgil, and many other creatures where the natural the natural existence is able to in some way overcome the power of the dark side. Let me give you an example. The well, as we see with like the Umbra moths, those weird looking moth creatures, they end up being Chimeras downfall, at least in this episode. We know that they're attracted to light, and Osha ends up using this to defeat Chimera by using the light from Pip, or droid, to attract the moths to attack Chimera. And rather, these are not like real world moths. These are these nasty, creepy looking moths. And they attack Chimera and defeat him. At least for that moment. Yet again, this is in Star Wars, nature overcoming evil. Or at least being part of the defeat of evil, because I think nature exists in a balance that is more like the light side, and that balance is something that darksiders usually try to destroy. But having nature strike that is poetic justice. And so we see that. And the other thing is we have to give a shout out to our boy Basil, our little rodent-like Kinnan. He finds Tip's Tip's light after it falls off of Chimera. Now, at the end, we see that May knocks out Osha and dresses up as Osha, and then goes and follows Soul. Soul doesn't seem to sense the deception, but Basil does. Basil is a tracker, a very keen sense of smell. He senses that something's not right. And probably with his natural ability, he'll be able to smell that that's not Osha. Now, you might ask the question, and it's a legitimate question to ask, which is, why couldn't Soul sense the deception? Well, he is rather emotionally unbalanced by what happened in this episode. And also, the Jedi sometimes rely on the Force, but maybe don't rely enough on their other senses or the abilities of other creatures. Basil, even though I don't think he's Force sensitive, is very keen on tracking and smell. So he has abilities that the Jedi have enhanced abilities. Their power isn't everything. There are other ways to exist and other abilities that are stronger, that are not force based, but natural based. And it's kind of the idea that only Jedi arrogance would assume that they have it all figured out. Sometimes somebody else comes in and shows that the Jedi, as great as the Jedi are, their abilities don't give them control over everything. Almost like it's a commentary that Basil's natural senses are more powerful than a Jedi Master's sense. Only the Jedi arrogance would be so bold as to say that they've got it all figured out. Maybe Soul will sense it in the next episode. But I think Basil is going to be the key to unlocking what Osha and Soul or what May is doing disguised as Osha shall be interesting. To see, what does she want? Because if she wanted to kill Soul, she could probably have done it right then and there. I mean, I don't know if she'd be able to defeat him, but she would have challenged him there. But what game is she playing? Why is she disguised as Osha? And why is she following Soul? As they're walking toward the spaceship, we get a close up of the two aliens playing some kind of chess game. I think that's a bit of what's the right word? It's it's showing that this is a game. It's like not a foreshadowing. It's a parallel. It's a parallel. The aliens playing chess is like a parallel to whatever chess game May is playing in this moment. Now, in the last episode, May told Pioneer that her loyalty was to her sister. And that was her quote unquote strongest loyalty. This episode shows us that that is not entirely true. Because she leaves Osha on the planet in the forest. She just leaves her sister there. If she truly was as loyal as she claims, I don't think she would have left her sister. So I don't think May was entirely honest last week. In fact, honesty, I think, is one of the big themes here. The more we see, the more we come to understand that Saul is hiding something. Now, I don't think Saul is secretly evil. I just think he hasn't told the truth. And maybe the next episode will get the truth. Now, Pioneer probably can recognize that Osha is not May. So what is Pioneer going to do with it? It was very interesting at the end of the episode that Osha is lying on the ground, passed out. But Pioneer puts his cloak over her like a blanket. A surprisingly compassionate move. What is his game? What does he want to do with Osha? Maybe the next episode, Soul will tell his part of the story to May, thinking it's Osha. And Kymir will tell his part of the story to Osha. Now, who is Kymir's master? Well, let's back up. So Kymir says, you might call me Sith. Okay. Is he a Sith Lord? As in the rule of two? And the answer is, I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Maybe he is part of the rule of two that says, I don't want to hide in the shadows anymore. It's yet to be seen if he is as someone said, is he a Sith? Capital S or lowercase s? Also, he wants an acolyte. He wants an apprentice. Let's say he is a Sith Lord, as in capital S. Is he the master looking for an apprentice? Or is he the apprentice looking for an apprentice so that he can overthrow the master? As the Sith do. Interesting. I should see where things go. But I'm inclined to think that he is not a Sith capital S. He could also be, and I'm not the only person who said this, but could he be one of the Knights of Ren? Maybe even the founder of the Knights of Ren. Maybe. And also, he gives a very interesting speech. Saul says, what do you want? And Kymir gives a speech that he wants freedom, that he wants the right to exist, and he wants the right to practice the Force how he sees fit, without the Jedi telling him you're doing it wrong. He says the Sith can't exist because you tell us we can't exist. He's giving an argument that is full of a lot of half-truths. Somebody pointed out the other night that this is very much like women in America saying, I've got my First Amendment rights to say what I want, which is true, but using it as an excuse to say things or do things that are wrong, particularly when other groups say you can't do that, whether it be laws or internet opinion or uh, whatever. But kind of the idea of a person saying, I can say whatever I want because I've got the right to say it. I've got the right to exist and do what I want without you telling me I can't. And people use it as a crutch so that they can do horrible things and say and do horrible things and say, it's my right. And that's the kind of argument Kanye is using. That, and it's not entirely wrong, nor is it entirely right. The Sith deal in half truths. It's really something they do. Also, he says one of the coldest lines in Star Wars. He kills Jackie. Soul says, Jackie. And Kiner says, was that its name? Oh my goodness. A very chilling line. This is a sociopath. Basically, is what Kiner is. He has no regard for life or existence. Yeah, it's nasty. Now, why is Kiner exposing himself by saying, you can call me a Sith? The Jedi at this time think the Sith have been gone for hundreds of years. Why would Kiner reveal that in his monologue? Monologuing, as they say in The Incredibles. I don't know, but I get the feeling that he's planting some seeds that will create almost like he's acting as a red herring. Maybe he's saying it in order to get suspicions raised, but in some way designed to trick the Jedi Council into thinking that, oh, there was this one loony who called himself a Sith, but not really, so case closed. Almost as if to sow even more doubt. So that by the time the prequel come along and Qui-Gon says Sith, everybody goes, nah. Yeah. Anyhow, I don't know what Kyner's plan is, but it'd be interesting to find out if he is a Sith, and if he is, um, you know, why reveal it? Or he is a Sith who just got impatient with the rule of two. Now, Now, the question has been raised a few times. Who trained him? Is he part of the Sith Order, or was he trained by somebody else? Now, Yord says to Osha, he gets inside your head. He's talking about Chimera. He's like, it doesn't make sense. He gets inside your head. Osha says, my mother could do that. We saw that Mother Coral could do that. And so could several of the other mothers, I think. Mother Coral, Mother Anastasia. Was he trained by Anastasia or Coral? Did one of them train him to be an enemy of the Jedi? No. It would make sense. It would be interesting to see if he has a personal connection to whatever happened on Rendok. A personal connection with the whole situation with Nay, Osha, and the Coven. Because it would be interesting if he has a personal vendetta, a personal connection. Either that or he is an opportunist. The Sith are sometimes very much like vultures. They see that something's going on that they can exploit, and then they latch onto it. Uh, they're looking for carrion. They're looking for things that are already going wrong so that they can get involved and manipulate it to fit their own agenda. So is that what Chimera is doing? Is he being a scavenger, so to speak? Or does he have a personal connection to the situation? And was he trained by one of the mothers? I'm inclined to think that we had not, that the story of Brenda is going to connect with the overall story of the Acolyte more than just as backstory. I think the final thing I wanted to say is that this is a very shocking, yet absolutely brilliant episode. Every time the Acolyte answers questions, it raises more. And now we know the identity of Death Teeth. And Chimera says, I have no name. It'd be interesting to learn more of that in. But I think Manny Jacinto is nailing it as this unpassionate character who is almost just, like I said, a sociopath, in that he just very nonchalantly kills and names and murders. It's fascinating. And he does a great job. I gotta say, Lee Jung Jae knocked it out of the park. There's a scene in there where he gets angry. He gets really angry. And Lee Jung Jae is a fearsome fighter when he's angry. And we get to see some good old punch outs too. They get lightsaber fights, but also some good old fashioned mono and monopisticus. And Dathomir seems to know a lot about what happened on Brendock, and he keeps egging Sol on about tell them what you did. I don't think Sol is evil, but he probably did something that he regrets. And I'd be interested to know what that is. Anyhow, there's so much more I could say here, but I will say that the action scenes here are some of the best in all of Star Wars. And as they say, the plot like gravy thickens. So those are my thoughts on episode 5, Night. My name is Brendan Martin, noise hearing is my ventilator. Thank you for tuning in to another Acolyte analysis. Only 3 more weeks of this, folks. Presented by Page Turners. They were not my Star Wars podcast. For light and life, and may the Force be with you.